Good morning. I'd like to welcome you all this morning. My name is Becca Reynolds, and I'm going to be your service leader today. My pronouns are she and her. I am a redhead. I'm wearing a new white shirt with a lot of black ribbon on it and a little flowery skirt. We thank Eva for providing the prelude, Prayer Opus 48, number 1 by Beethoven. We are so glad to have you here, and we hope that you can stay for coffee, tea, conversation after the service. Today, after the service, we'll also hold our spring congregational meeting. Please see your bulletin or the board in the hallway for more announcements and upcoming events. Our chalice lighter today is Eric. The chalice lighting words are Nurturing Imagination by Reverend Michelle Collins. Come, let us gather in this sacred space where imagination is a soil rich with possibility. Let us plant seeds of wonder, water them with curiosity, and tend them with community. May our minds open, our hearts awaken, and together, may we nurture visions that grow beyond today. Come, let us worship and imagine anew.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Our opening words are Life is Always Unfinished Business by Richard S. Gilbert. In the midst of the whirling day, in the hectic rush to be doing, in the frantic pace of life, pause here for a moment. Catch your breath. Relax your body. Loosen your grip on life. Consider that our lives are always unfinished business. Imagine that the picture of our being is never complete. Allow your life to be a work in progress. Do not hurry to mold the masterpiece. Do not rush to finish the picture. Do not be impatient to finish the drawing. From beckoning birth to dawning death, we are in process. And always there is more to be done. Do not let the incompleteness weigh on your spirit. Do not despair that imperfection marks your every day. Do not fear that we are still in the making. Let us instead be grateful that the world is still to be created. Let us give thanks that we can be more than we are. Let us celebrate the power of the incomplete. For life is always unfinished business. Our song for the month of May is Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky, number 301 in the gray hymnal. You may stand or sit as you prefer. And the words will also be on the screens. So we will sing.
sky, walk on shores while spirits fly. Over the ocean, over the land, our faith a quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky. Children ask the reasons why. In our lives the answers show, and by our love they learn and grow. Touch the earth, reach the sky. All are born and all shall die. Life's the time left in between to follow a star, to build a dream. Touch the earth, reach the sky. Hug the laughter, feel the cry. May we see where we can give, for this is what it means to live. Touch the earth, reach the sky, soar with courage ever high. Spirits joining as we fly, to touch the earth, to reach the sky.
Good morning. My name is Mark McGinn. Let's see, I'm an elderly gent. I have long gray hair with a gray newspaper hat, boy's hat, and I'm dressed in various shades of orange and black, and I think I look a little bit like a refugee from Halloween. Today, one of my favorite stories, I've seen this one before. This story is called Time for All Ages. Good morning, friends. We are exploring the many ways we can use our imaginations. Today, we are exploring using our imaginations to think outside the box and solve the puzzles life sends our way. So with that in mind, I want to tell you a special tale. It's called The Wise Man and the Problem. Once upon a time, long, long ago, in a faraway land, a king faced a difficult challenge. The people of his kingdom needed water. But a massive boulder had fallen into the only well, blocking their supply. The strongest people in the kingdom tried to move it, but no one could budge the heavy stone. Frustrated, the king called upon the wisest person in the land, and when they arrived, the king said, "We have tried everything, but the boulder will not move. What shall we do?" The wise one did not rush to answer. Instead, they sat by the wall, they sat by the well, thinking. Finally, the wise one smiled and said, "You need to change how you look at the problem." The people were confused. "We must remove the rock or we will have no water," they cried. But the wise one asked all the villagers to bring buckets of water. Though they doubted him, they did as they were asked. Slowly, the wise one poured the water into the well. At first, nothing happened, and the villagers began to panic. "You are wasting our little bit of water we have," the villagers cried, but the wise one kept pouring. And as more and more water filled the space, the great boulder began to rise with the water's force. Soon, it floated to the top, where it was easily pushed aside. The wise one replied, "Oh, I'm sorry." The people cheered, they should. The king marveled and said, "We were using strength when we needed imagination. You have taught us a great lesson." The wise one replied, "Sometimes the answer is not to fight the obstacle, but to imagine a new way around it." There is so much to love about this story, but the biggest thing is the way the story reminds us that we can use our imaginations to think out of the box, or in other words, we can use our imaginations to solve problems in new ways. It reminds us that even when we feel stuck, thinking differently can lead to solutions we never imagined. So in the week and days ahead, may all of us, kids and adults alike, hold on to this story and remember to use our imagination and to think outside the box.
Good morning, my church family. My name is Jennifer. I go by she, her pronouns, and I usually have very curly hair, but as you might notice today, it's straight. It's a great way to find out how long it actually is. Let's see. I am a member of the Pastoral Care Circle. To share joys and concerns is to practice holy imagination, to envision ourselves as caregivers in one another's stories, to empathize with the experience of others that have brought joy and sorrow, to hope on behalf of or alongside one another. As a community, we share joys and concerns to keep connected. Slips of paper are available at the greeters table for those in the sanctuary to use for joys and concerns. During the week, you may send your joys and concerns by email to pastoralcare@springfielduu.org or by leaving a voicemail on the church phone 417-883-3922. If you're on Zoom, please use the chat box now for sharing your joys and concerns. All of these joys and concerns will be included in the members' email on Tuesday. We honor each joy or concern with a lighted candle, a symbol of the love we as a community offer for each of these joys and concerns. And this morning, Eric will be lighting the candles. Thank you. And now, as we begin this time of sharing, know that though we are in multiple spaces, we are together in beloved community. To begin, we hold in love all of us, those present and those absent. We light a candle for our church community. Eunice Waller, writing for herself, and Kara and Mike DeBacker want to thank everyone for the continued messages, visits, and cards. Adam has enjoyed every message. Adam is now out of the hospital, and has begun rehab at Mercy's Rehab Hospital. We light a candle of joy to celebrate Adam's improving health, and we offer support for the continuing journey. Sherry Buchanan offers a joy and appreciation for the Covenant Mission and Vision Task Force, who have worked so diligently to help us articulate these statements. We light a candle of joy and appreciation for the Covenant Mission and Vision Task Force. Judy Oliver shares a joy for all the creatures who share my woods and all the people who work to protect them. We light a candle of joy for Judy and all the critters. I think I got critter from watching Beverly Hillbillies. Isn't that what she always called them, critters? And I've used that ever since. Okay, the flora and fauna. All right. Betty Ridge shares a concern for my sister-in-law, Debbie, who was hospitalized with a brain bleed. She is recovering. We light a candle of concern for Betty and her sister. Ooh, Millie shares a joy. Doesn't start out sounding like one, but my dog Claire and I survived a dog attack Wednesday morning. I wasn't injured, but Claire had 2 gashes in her head, but she is healing nicely. The attack dog jumped the fence. Whew. So we light a candle of joy for that not turning out as badly as it might have. And then Yomi, I'm having hernia surgery tomorrow and hoping everything goes well. I will be off my cancer treatment for 3 weeks and praying it was the right choice. We light a candle of concern for Yomi. Let me check and see if we have anything online here. We do. Jesse shares, please send prayers and positive vibes to my grandmother who had a bad spill yesterday and is currently waiting to have surgery on breaks that she ended up with. We light a candle of concern for Jesse's grandmother. Neil Richardson shares a joy for all of the spring graduates in our congregation. From our extended family, we had over 6 individuals earn a high school bachelor or master's degree this semester. So we light a candle of joy for all our graduates. And from Jane Waschik, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, a joy that our son and his wife came through the St. Louis storm without any damage. We light a candle of joy for that. Let's see, where am I? We honor the complex and heartbreaking struggles of our world. We light a candle for all who are impacted.
I have a concern.
Okay.
My mother's in the hospital right now. She might need, well, she is gonna have to have heart surgery again sometime next week, so just send her positive energy. Hopefully everything turns out. I might have to head back there real soon.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what's your name?
Rick.
Okay, Rick is sharing a concern about his mother. He has to go for her surgery. And so we light a candle of concern for that. Oh, you on the table. In closing, for those joys and concerns that remain unspoken, we light a candle. That's okay. May we hold each of these joys and concerns in our hearts and minds. May our community of love ease sorrow and boost celebration. And now let us join together in 1 minute of shared silence, followed by Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Always be a wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to
offering our gifts. First of the history. The week of May 18th in UU history. On May 19th, 1841, renowned Unitarian theologian and preacher Thomas Parker gave a sermon for ordination. The sermon, Discourse on the Transient and Permanency and the Permanent in Christianity, caused great controversy within and beyond the Unitarian movement because he denied the miracles of Jesus. According to Parker, the permanent contribution of Christianity was not its story, but its ethical laws. This sermon, now dubbed the Testament and the Permanent, is still in print. Now to the offering. Offering our gifts to support the work of building inclusive and just communities is one of the many ways we live into justice and equity together. Some of us have much to give, and some have little, and together it is enough. We are enough to work together for a world where every human can live into their best and most authentic self. If electronic giving is your preferred method, or if you are on Zoom, virtual giving options are available via our website, springfielduu.org. Now, John, you can tell us about today's offertory because it's very special.
Thank you. Thank you, Becca. When I was directing the first UU choir back in 2009, we decided at some point to make a CD with several pieces of music that we knew well, and the expanded choral version of Gather the Spirit by Jim Scott was one of those pieces. While the CD project never came to fruition, and who has a CD player now anyway, we nevertheless gained an audio snapshot of the choir at that point in time. I used some very sensitive microphones to make that recording that you're going to hear. And as a result, it's possible to sometimes hear individual voices of the singers sticking out of the overall texture. That's something that is typically not preferred in choral recordings, but in this case, it allows us to remember and appreciate the efforts and contributions of singers in the UU choir over the years. Many of the people that you're going to hear are no longer with us, yet their voices remain. In the words of the song, the chorus of life resounding as one. Being involved in the music of this church should result in a spiritual experience, both for the congregation and also for the choir. And in the best of circumstances, there is no distinction between the two. There is a place for everyone in the choir. I'll say that again. There's a place for everyone in the choir. All you have to do is gather the Spirit. The offertory today is that recording of Gather the Spirit from 2009.
Good morning. I am Reverend Michelle Scott Huffman. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the minister here at First UU. And I am a kind of average height woman wearing all black except for a red t-shirt today. And I have short, spiky hair. Maybe that's all you need to know right now. So today we're talking about imagination as we have been for most of this month. And because today is our semi-annual congregational meeting, the imagination that I want to talk about specifically is that of the people who got this place going a while ago. If you're a visitor, some of these stories will be new. If you're not, haven't been around here for a long time, if you've been here, as people in this room have, from 2 to 5 to 10 to 30 to 50 some years, you might have heard these stories before. The point of my telling them today is so that we can remember that we are here today because of the imagination of a whole bunch of people a long time ago. And I hope that you will take what I say here and apply it to other places and experiences in your life as well, to spend some time reflecting on the imagination of people who came before you, who had a part in you being where you are today. In the spring of 1953, a group of 26 people gathered in Springfield, Missouri, in search of something that didn't yet exist here. A spiritual home that welcomed questions, that didn't ask anyone to check their mind or their doubts at the door, that believed, in the words of Marge Hill, that any child could be the hope for the world. That was the seed. Today, more than 70 years later, we sit under the shade of trees they planted, literally and metaphorically. We gather in a building they built with their own hands, with their limited budget, with donated lumber and stubborn hope and a whole lot of elbow grease. We are living the story of their imagination, their grit, their belief that liberal religion belonged in the Ozarks. That was a radical belief in 1953. As it is today in 2025. Let us begin then with gratitude. Let us remember from whom we come. We come from Marge Hill, who sketched a drawing of a child and said it wasn't meant to be the Christ child, but rather the idea that every child carries hope. We come from Fred Kiefendorf, who looked at her drawing and looked at her and said, "You sound like a Unitarian." We come from Lois and Vic Bovey, who helped organize the first public meeting on Unitarianism in Springfield, and from the 50 or so curious souls who showed up at the Kentwood Arms Hotel in April of 1953 to see what this Unitarian thing might be. We come from resilience. From Les Hill, a teacher fired for alleged atheism, and from the fellowship members who said, "Not on our watch." From Vic Bovey, who put pen to paper in the local newspaper and defended Hill so powerfully that the story was picked up nationally. We come from those who stood up, who spoke out before it was popular or safe to do so. We come from the roguish charm of Leota Barnett, a woman whose friends referred to her as a bit salty, who once stomped out of a sermon over a speaker's assertion that removing the D from devil still leaves evil. We come from Barbara Rosen, who was a mother to more than half of the early Sunday school because she had 5 kids and a heart for all the children, and wife to Max, who didn't join the church so that he could still play poker at the temple with a clear conscience. We come from Don Cato, who stayed a friend of the church but not a member, keeping his Catholic membership just in case. We come from complicated, brilliant, deeply human people who built a sanctuary out of sweat and spirit and radical imagination. And we come from the split, Church folks don't always like to talk about our messes, but healthy communities don't bury their conflicts in the backyard, they compost them. They let the heat of it all give way to growth. And so today I give thanks for 1966. That year, disagreement broke open between what Jim Broadstreet affectionately calls the old guard and what Joyce Pyle and the Kinseys referred to as the Young Turks. The old guard had built the fellowship. The Young Turks came in like a prairie wind full of energy and new ideas, some of which might have landed a little rough. They wanted a minister, a building, status in the community. Some old guard members felt this was too much too soon. The community wasn't ready, they couldn't afford it, and quite frankly, they weren't so sure they wanted to be a church. The fellowship model offered the flexibility to do what they really wanted to do, engage in heady debates about philosophical and religious ideas. The tensions rose until a story many of us have heard from Jim Broadstreet before. On one spring day in Jim's living room, the conversation came to an impasse and 6 people stood up to walk out. Lee Kinsey turned and asked Jim, "Are you coming with us?" And Jim, with a dry wit fitting for Unitarians and church conflict, said, "Hell, Lee, I can't leave. I live here." So 2 groups formed. 2 dreams diverged. And for 4 years, they lived in parallel imagination, one rooted in fellowship and resilience, the other in growth and reform, and both groups thrived. They sharpened each other. And when they reunited in 1970, the result was a new thing, the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Springfield, Missouri. A synthesis that came through divided imaginations, diverging and rediscovering a new path together. This is the pattern of prophetic imagination. Not running from conflict, but holding space long enough for truth and grace to rise. Not fantasy or nostalgia, but that tenuous middle place where something can take root, and probably something that nobody has yet imagined. Remember that Walter Brueggemann said, "Our culture is competent to implement almost anything and to imagine almost nothing." But you, beloved community, have kept the fruits of these early imaginations alive. You have made a home for liberal religion in a region that often didn't and doesn't recognize it as a legitimate religious or spiritual or ethical path. That home grew again in the early 1980s when the little building on East Seminole could no longer contain the spirit and size of the congregation. Jim Broadstreet recalls the time vividly. He says, "The dreams were big and the budget was not." Also 2025. But somehow the stars aligned. A piece of land on Battlefield Road was secured thanks in part to a generous gift. Architect Jack Taylor offered his services for free. Jim, who was recently retired from woodworking, volunteered to lead the project. A lumber company from Thayer donated framing wood. A neighbor who wasn't even a member gifted a pile of walnut lumber before being transferred out of state. And so the building rose nail by nail, and a patchwork of generosity, grit, and yes, imagination. This was no megachurch capital campaign. It was a labor of love, of pickup trucks and power tools and chili cook-offs and shared paintbrushes. And in 1984, the congregation gathered under this roof, and the children of the church planted a tree. It's hard to imagine that being 40 years ago, especially since we have a number of those builders still with us in the congregation today. But let us not imagine that we are the end of this story. We are just a middle chapter. And I think the difficulty with churches begins when we begin to imagine that this was for us, that this is ours, and that it need not continue after we're gone. When we get into this space of self-preservation and self-sufficiency that says this need only last long enough for me. As the old proverb says, a society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they will never sit. The shade we rest in today is the legacy of those who dreamed not just for themselves, but for us and for generations they would never meet, and generations we will never meet. Springfield UUs years from now will find themselves standing in the shelter of something we built, a garden, a justice program, a welcoming circle, and give thanks for our courage, our foolish hope, and our unwillingness to give in to cynicism. And now, as we look ahead, I want to share a reflection from former UUA President Reverend Susan Frederick Gray. As she approached the end of her time in leadership of this denomination, she returned again and again to a parable told by Dan Perry, the parable of the trapeze, turning the fear of transformation into the transformation of fear. Dannon writes, most of the time I spend my life hanging on for dear life to my trapeze bar of the moment. It carries me along and I have the feeling that I'm in control of my life, but every once in a while, I see another trapeze bar swinging toward me. Each time it happens, I pray that I won't have to let go of my old bar completely before I grab the new one. But you do it anyway, because somehow to keep hanging on to that old bar is no longer on the list of alternatives. Susan goes on to say, our values, our history and ancestors, our spiritual imagination of the beloved community, these give us momentum and draw us forward always. When the trapeze artist lets go, they do not free fall. There is momentum carrying them as it carries us all. And that's the work that we're still being called to do, letting go and reaching forward, being willing to live in the uncertain air between who we've been and who we're becoming, not alone, but together with faith, hope, courage, tenacity, and solidarity. And perhaps just maybe someone in the future will laugh at one of our quirks the way we smile at Leota's stomp or Max Rosen's poker table conscience. Because we are ancestors in training, characters in someone else's origin story. So let us imagine well. Let us imagine faithfully. Let us imagine radically and boldly. Let us imagine with eyes wide open to the world's needs and ears attuned to the still speaking voice of love. Let us imagine a church where the rain garden and the vegetable patch and the chalice flame all testify to our stewardship and our hope. Let us imagine a church where newcomers find not just welcome, but belonging. Let us imagine a church that still surprises Springfield with its courage and, quite frankly, that still draws the ire of those who enact injustice in our community, because if we aren't making somebody mad, we aren't doing a very good job of living our values. And that's our calling. To be a voice for liberal religion in the Ozarks is to be a home for the seekers, the doubters, the dancing, the questioning, the healing, the hopeful. To be, as Reverend Vanessa Southern writes, a new story, credible and real, grounded in truth and alive in possibility. So here we are, not at the end or the beginning, but here now in the messy middle, with calloused hands and dreaming hearts, standing on the shoulders of those who dared to dream before us, the ones who dreamt us here. And it's our turn to imagine. radically, boldly, prophetically, and then to take action to make those dreams come true until it's time to hand over what we have faithfully held and nurtured to the next generation of prophets, dreamers, and doers. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. The interlude today is The Impossible Dream, with words by Joe Darian and music by Mitch Lee, performed by John and Eva. Thank you, John and Eva. Friends, as we prepare to leave this place today, I would invite you to just take a moment and think of one thing that you have received here today that you want to take with you, that will be a factor in your new imaginings, in the ways that you want to be in the world, in the person that you want to show up as in all of your relationships, and in the ancestor that you hope to become. May we be bold enough to dream beyond our lifetimes, humble enough to know we are not the first, and brave enough to know we will not be the last. Let us carry the memory, the vision, the promise, and imagine a justice-filled future together, with love at the center, today, tomorrow, and beyond. Our final hymn is Over My Head, number 30 in the gray hymnal. You're welcome to stand or stay seated if you'd like. If you're standing, feel free to remain standing after the hymn for our chalice extinguishing and unison sending words. And don't forget to grab some coffee and hang around for the congregational meeting.
If you're using the hymnal, you might watch the screens for some of the words that got changed. There must be peace somewhere. Over my head, I feel gladness in the air. Over my head, I feel gladness in the air. Over my head, I feel gladness in the air. There must be joy somewhere.
I'll invite Eric to come and extinguish our communal chalice, even as our friends, probably 15 or so who are on Zoom with us, extinguish their own personal chalices. And then we'll close with our unison sending words. Which will be on the slide in just a second. Our service here is ending. Our service to the world begins anew. Go in peace, friends. Actually, stay in peace.